Good evening. Thank you all for tuning in. Today, as another podcast of our ongoing series Shakti, we celebrate women in STEM. We have with us two formidable women who've made their mark in their respective fields. Joining us today are Sakshi Khanna, who's a chemical engineer from the University of Sheffield and serves as a trustee of the IYEM. She's worked in the glass and diagnostic product manufacturing industries and is currently an entrepreneur. She also keeps many social causes close to her heart. We also have Ms. Priyanka Khemka, a chemical engineer from UC Berkeley with expertise in formulating and executing strategies. She has led major projects in New York and London, supporting new and existing business development within the oil and gas, chemical, renewable, and chemical sectors. She is also a yoga and meditation enthusiast. Thank you so much for joining here with us, ladies. Can you hear me properly?
Hi, Ria. Yes, thank you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. So I'll get right to it. It's actually very interesting. I'd like to ask you a little about what chemical engineering, since you're both chemical engineers, what does chemical engineering entail? What makes it different from other choices, and why did both of you choose it? Anyone can go first, and then we'll go to the other person. Sakshi, would you like to start?
Okay. So, chemical engineering is a very broad field. And often, when I tell people I'm a chemical engineer, they mistake that word, that term, with that of being a chemist. Now, the two are very different fields. So, chemical engineering is more about manufacturing, scaling up a small process to the larger scale. So, chemists normally works with, on a molecular level, and they work with reactions and analyzing chemicals. So, chemical engineers, they work in the manufacturing field, in the processing field, when it comes to the environment. Sustainability field, materials industry, also when it comes to fighting pollution or reducing carbon emissions, keeping in mind the efficiency, increasing the efficiency of the process. So uh, they work on the product, they improve the efficiency and of the process, but they also need to work on cost reduction at the same time. Now, whether it could be pipeline design, it could be working on in the pharma industry or chocolate manufacturing or butter making, it involves a lot of areas. So we're basically applying chemistry along with physics, maths, and sometimes even biology to formulate products and processes. So not just manufacturing, also could be we enter the field of consultancy, research. So many chemical engineers step into research, and it's pretty interesting because they offer a broad range of opportunities. So not like specifically like a computer engineer would work only in the field of coding or computers. So this gives you various opportunities in various fields. So that's pretty much how it's different from being a chemist and what it relates to.
Yeah.
Sounds very interesting. I mean, it actually entails everything from chocolate and to pollution, which is very fascinating. Priyanka, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I think Sakshi explained it very nicely, but I will just say a, the distinction between a chemist and a chemical engineer. A chemist would be working in a laboratory, maybe manufacturing something at the scale of 1 kilograms per day kind of a skill. The would be manufacturing the same thing at like 100 tons per day or 500 tons per day. Chemistry is really involved when we were in school together. I was always very fond of chemistry and mathematics, and I thought chemical engineering is going to be a combination of both. And it did turn out that way, and I really enjoyed the courses I took in chemical engineering in college.
Absolutely. Priyanka was very fond of chemistry, and so was I. Both of us, I remember, we would love our lab work, work on our vivas together.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah.
wonderful memories to
Yeah,
that.
but I think it's a lot more mathematics than chemistry when you
Yes,
actually study chemical engineering courses.
absolutely, I agree with that.
Sounds very, very interesting. So, after you chose your streams, though, what were your experiences like in college? Say both about some interesting courses you took or any other significant personal experiences.
Priyanka, you can take that one first.
Okay, so I can say, so I think one of my favorite courses, or the ones I really enjoyed in college, was there is a process design class which you usually take in your last year, which kind of pulls together everything you have learned over the 3 or 4 years you've studied chemical engineering. And it was like, I remember my project was to design an actual IGCC plant, which is an integrated coal gasification plant, which is producing power as well as steam. And it kind of was built on the concepts which we were taught in mass transfer, fluid transfer, reaction kinetics. So I really enjoyed seeing how everything came together and could be applied practically and actually produce something in the real world.
Yeah.
Sakshi,
So,
do you have anything to add to that? Yeah.
yes. So my favorite was crystal engineering, crystal sciences, which was one of my favorite modules, and that too, I took it up in the third year. I managed to score really well, and I was offered a research project in the same. But I was also quite interested in the combustion processes. So I worked at a glass plant where I was involved in understanding the combustion inside a glass melting furnace, and I was quite interested in that area, but also like reactor design, mass transfer, as Priyanka mentioned. But I struggled with engineering design in my second year, I remember. And I would look around to my classmates, who were boys mostly, who would be very quick when using CAD and when designing on this using the software. So that was one area I actually struggled, and I remember I took a lot of help. I did manage to do well later on, but that was one of my struggle areas. The overall every module was equally interesting, and yeah, it was very enjoyable.
So let me get this straight. So chemical engineering is it sounds so vast with a scope that ranges from everything to everything. Even here, we've discussed oil and gas, and then there's reactor design, and of course, then there's the environment. Very, very hot topics. Great scope. So if I start talking to you about your work experience, could you probably walk us through the kind of industries you joined, your experiences there, your achievements, challenges, learnings, anything at all? Priyanka, probably you can start first.
Sure. So after I graduated from college, that was like that was like 2011 or something. I actually did a couple of internships. I worked in a startup company that was making solar panels. I worked in a startup company that was working on producing, on purification of water. And I worked in a startup company in San Francisco Bay Area, which was producing biofuels from agricultural waste. And I worked in different capacities. Like for one of them, I was working in an engineering role. For one of them, I was working in more of a technology focus, like a lab R&D kind of a role. And in one of them, I was actually working more of on the market research and the business development side. And by doing these three different internships, I realized like the role that I most enjoyed was the one which was kind of more on the business development and research side, which kind of fell in the middle of technology and the business. And hence I decided I wanted to join consulting. So I was with a company called Nexent for 8 years in New York. And I did consulting for all the mostly petrochemical companies, some fertilizer companies, oil and gas companies, where I would do market studies, feasibility analysis for new plans, looking at different technologies, coming up with techno-economic models, analyzing cost of production models. So, and I really enjoyed it because I felt my position was very unique because it was not just business research or market research. I needed to have an understanding of the chemicals and chemical engineering and a little bit of the chemistry as well. And I feel that that gave me a very niche role. It's not easy to find many people who would have a blend of both the skills, like business and technology. And even in my current role, so now I've moved to London last year and I'm working with another energy company, and I work in their strategy group, and my role right now is to really look out for new technologies for capturing carbon dioxide to reduce the pollution in the environment, which is again a great cause. It's the need of the hour. And I realized, even while working in this company, people really value me because for them it's very hard to find someone with my background. One is that chemical engineers are very few, I think, in this world, and then finding a chemical engineer who can understand the business side as well. um, and in terms of challenges in my roles, I would say the real challenges when you're in the working field is not so much with your technical skills. It's not so much about can you do the work. I think 95 out of 100 people can do the work and can do the work well. But what really will give you the edge or separate you out is how well you are able to communicate up as well as communicate down, communicating well with your managers managers, people who are working for you. It's really, I think, all about building relationships, maintaining relationships, really understanding what the other person needs, not just my client, not just understanding what my client need, but understanding what does my analyst need, what would make him happy, what does my manager need from me, what would make him happy, and balancing expectations, communicating well. I think those are the keys to success in the real world. I think technical skills, having technical skills is a given. You need to have them, otherwise you cannot succeed in today's world.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree on that with Priyanka. I remember I was with Engineers India Limited, which is in Bikaji Kama Place, Delhi, for a short-term project with them, which involved design of wastewater pipelines. And I remember the day when I entered the EIL office, um, there was no female engineer there in the office. It was predominantly males. Yet I enjoyed my experience working with them on the design on the project, and I never felt out of place because they did understand that there are fewer chemical engineers, as rightly put by Priyanka, and especially fewer female chemical engineers. But
Mhm.
I had a wonderful experience there with getting full support from the senior engineers at the Engineers India Limited. Um, yeah, but as Priyanka mentioned as well, communication skills are very important here. Um, Networking with the people and communicating things in the right manner, that's very important. Um, I enjoyed working at the garden glass plant the most. I worked there for the maximum period of time. And it involved work from the furnace operations, the process of glass melting, to quality control, to analysis, and even like I also tasted bits of places where control engineering was required. So understood the controls during the process as well. So that's the place that I enjoyed the most. And uh, apart from that, when I worked at the Johnson and Johnson diagnostic segment in Wales, after I completed my master's in business administration, that role was pretty challenging, I feel, for me, but quite a good learning experience on the other hand. So that involved a lot of research and analysis of complexities within the process, within the supply chains in the diagnostic sector, because Johnson and Johnson, they manufacture diagnostic kits and equipments for testing various diseases and stuff. So analyzing complexity as a term only is so complex. Analyzing sources and then finding solutions to reduce complexity within the process, that was part of my role. I During the same time, I also co-authored a research paper um, uh, on complexities within this industry and solutions to the problems, which was published in the International Journal of Logistics Management and presented in Germany. So I think that was an experience in itself, and I was one of the very few privileged engineers who got the opportunity to work with Johnson and Johnson at that point of time and to co-author a paper, because I remember the day I had my interview and I called up my mom and mentioned that there's so many applicants, and it's very difficult to get through this organization here and the role. And when I got through, I felt so privileged. So yeah, that was the biggest experience, challenging as well as something that I relished. So I guess in the area of research was what I enjoyed the most. When I worked at Guardian, which was for the longest time, I worked as a process engineer on site. But at Johnson and Johnson, I was a researcher and an analyst, so two completely different roles. And at EIL, I worked as a project. And worked into projects and design. So completely different roles. Just like I said, there's a lot of variety in chemical engineering. So you have a lot of options to choose from.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, your field doesn't just sound rewarding, but it also looks like a lot of work. How did you figure the balance there? Did you face any significant issues? And if so, how did you overcome them? Sakshi, perhaps you can start with.
Yeah, so it requires a lot of hard work. Like somebody rightly said, that hard work comes to those who, good things comes to those who put in a lot of hard work. And yeah, chemical engineering does involve a lot of mathematical, analytical skills, a lot of research that it involves. It's not just simply mugging up things, like it is understanding. You need to have a very clear understanding of the concepts, of the process, of the design. Your experience at working at the pilot scale level is very much important to be able to understand how it works in a factory or in the real world, at the bigger scale. So yeah, it requires a lot of hard work, but it also requires a lot of teamwork. Now it's not something that individually you can work on, and we had a lot of projects that involved teamwork, because when you're on site, when you're at a plant, you work as a team. You're working with a team of say a control engineer or a mechanical engineer and other people at the site. So it involves a lot of teamwork. You should be able to communicate well. You should be able to pass on the designs or to get the designs verified. A lot of approvals needed. A lot of technicalities are involved. So yeah, it was pretty challenging, but then you learn along the way and you learn with the experiences. uh, I remember when I traveled to the glass plant, I would take the train in the morning from my city, and I had to be on time for work. Start my day with understanding the process, if there were any difficulties that were occurring during the day and the night, because it was a 24/7 plant. So what happened during the night? Was there any problem with the night shift? So yeah, you need to keep working with people to get better at it and to solve problems or to figure out solutions. You can't just do it by yourself. So team working and building on that is very relevant. So yeah, combined with your technical skills and your knowledge on the subject.
And Priyanka, what about your experiences?
I think the challenge, I agree with everything Sakshi said. And I think, in addition to that, I think one of the challenges I faced back when I was studying, and even today in a different way, or in a different degree, has always been how to manage everything. Like chemical, and even I was in college managing chemical, like these are hard courses. You have to study, you have to do the homeworks after hours, after the classes. It's like how much time do you spend on studying, on attending classes versus socializing or going out or playing sports or some other kind of activities. And I think one of the things, when I look back, maybe not, I wouldn't use the word regret, but maybe one thing, if I could change something, that would be I wish I had spent more time with my friends in college, or spent more time making new friends, or more time attending the range of events which I think a college environment offers you, instead of I was, I think, a little bit too much focused on the academics. Um, and I think that was one key takeaway from me once I left college. And in my life now, like even with work, and even at work, I would say, like even at work, I have 10 different things to do. But I start my week, and my Monday is like, okay, I have these 10 things to do, and there is no way I can finish these 10 things in the 8 hours I'm working every day. What is it that is most important? What is it that's of most value to the company, and what is it that would give make me look the best for the company? I think both the things have to go together. So I think that prioritization, that thinking through is very important, and I have learned this over the years. No one just taught me like this is how it should be. And again, I think it's about managing life in general. It's not just prioritizing your projects at work, it's about prioritizing things you want to do in life, because we all have 24 hours in a day, and how we want to spend those 24 hours a day. um, that I think is very important for me. And it's always going to be a struggle, because I always want to do more things than the time available. So I think at a personal level, the challenge is always figuring out where to put my energy into, how to prioritize. As they say, it's never about managing time. Never give the excuse that you don't have enough time for something. It's really about managing priorities in life. If you think something is worth it, you will go and make time for it.
Makes sense, absolutely. Um, Finally, just have one more question, and of course, I guess it's a very important question. There still aren't, till date, a lot of women, say, in STEM today. So, what advice, if any, would you have for young women who could want to pursue a potential career like yours, which could maybe help with this lack of women that we continue to see today? Priyanka, probably we can start with you.
I would say just go for it. Like I think I just followed my heart. I did not think too much whether should I do engineering, should I not do engineering, should I choose a business field. I just really loved chemistry and math, and I thought chemical engineering is a wonderful option. And I just went for it. I think just having that belief in yourself, having faith in your passion, what you stand for, what you want to do, and just go for it.
Yeah, I agree with Priyanka 100% on that. You should follow your heart. If you're good at numbers, if you love chemistry, go for it. It's a great field, offers great opportunities in the future. And also, it's chemical engineering is not just applying chemistry or your skills at work. It you can also apply those skills in your day-to-day life. So it doesn't just doesn't restrict you to working or to the work environment or to your projects. So it's like you can apply it in your day to day life. Like I still apply the mass balance equation in different areas, in nutrition or in when it comes to my daily routine. I love analyzing and I love using that equation everywhere. And when I think of when you think of something like your organs, your kidneys, and you relate that to a reverse osmosis unit. So it's like you can apply that in your daily fields in different worlds. It's about the processes. You can relate those to the like you can relate a large scale chemical engineering process or like any process to your process of digestion within your body, which is like on a smaller scale. So you can relate to different things and different. You can come up with different ideas. So it is pretty innovative. You work on inventing, formulating newer recipes, whether it is in the pharma field or if it's in food processing. And now, because everyone wants to enter the environment friendly businesses, you're coming up with the recycled paper or packaging which is made from recycled waste. So these are the upcoming fields, and people are quite environment conscious. You want to reduce carbon emissions. So there is a lot of scope. So my advice to all the girls out there would be that there is a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of scope in this area because it's vast and it considers a lot of aspects. So yeah, go for it. Follow your heart, and you can do it. Requires a lot of hard work, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, and just I would like to add to that. I think what Sakshi was saying is very important. Like, a lot of people think like chemical engineers can only, work in a chemical plant after graduating, but that's not true. You could work in a chemical plant, you could be in the field, you could be a process engineer, you could be sitting at your desk and doing software simulations for plants. You could be even be in the lab and be doing R&D work, or you could be like me. I joined consulting. I know some of my friends, they joined consumer products companies like P&G and all. There are even people who went into banking and finance even after studying chemical engineering. So I think engineering in general gives you that mindset to analyze problems, to really logically think about what the problem is. And that is a skill which is transferable to any industry.
That's right. So, like, I aim to being entering entrepreneurship now, and I'm using my skills. So, it doesn't just restrict you to engineering or to working in a factory or working as a consultant. You can be an entrepreneur. You can enter any field that you may want to choose. You're just using your skills, your analytical skills, because your mind works differently. You're applying what you've studied in any field that you enter. You're applying what you've studied. So yeah, it's quite applicable, and it's unique in a way. It's different from other engineering fields.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Sakshi and Priyanka, for taking out the time to share your experiences with us. It was a delight speaking with you, and thank you, our viewers, for tuning in.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Ria.
much.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Priyanka. Bye.
Bye.